Let me do the roll call and I'll come
Yeah,
back.
do we have another one that's, that's on?
I don't think, yeah, I could take Commissioner Cronin, but
Yeah.
maybe his will come up.
If there's any of them that are on.
Okay. Croner, Stanton,
Here.
Curran, Engel,
Here.
Give me a share, Mike.
Manning,
Seems to have popped up.
Gatto, Gray,
Here.
Sneer,
Present?
Shaw.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum, and for folks watching at home, apologize for
There you go.
starting late. We had some difficulties obtaining a quorum, but we are ready to go.
Oh, that's yours, I'm
The
sorry.
first item, let's see, we have
Sorry.
communications. I will
Okay.
just say that I have looked over the public hearing notice, and we do have certificate of publication here. Looks to be in order. And we will move to approval of the minutes of the January 4th, 2018 regular meeting. Do I have
So
motion
moved.
to approve the minutes? Commissioner Stanton, second.
Second.
Second. Do we have any edits or comments on the minutes?
None for me.
Hearing none. All in favor of approving the minutes of the January 4th, 2018 meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Moving on to item 1 this evening, we have a public hearing. Before we open the public hearing, we have a statement from one of our commissioners.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Shaw. Pursuant to the Village Code of Ethics, and after speaking with the village attorney, I am hereby disclosing that I have a conflict of interest on item 1 for today's meeting. I am a geotech engineer for Seco Consultants, and McDonald's USA LLC is a client of the company, and my company may very well perform work for this McDonald's off of 159th Street. As such, I will not be participating in any deliberation or voting on this petition. Thank you.
Thank you. So, just so that we're clear on procedure,
It's okay, as long as it's
Commissioner
enjoyed.
Gray's, it does count as a quorum, but we'll just not be participating in the public hearing.
We're voting established, we just, you can't.
So, do we have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is open. So we will swear in the petitioners. Anybody from the petitioner that would like to speak this evening, just ask that you stand up and raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you're going to give this evening is the truth? Thank you. Do we have anybody else from the public that would like to speak this evening on this? Okay, seeing none, we will, again, I have confirmed proper public notice for this hearing, and we'll move on to the staff presentation.
Did you mention the delay? I was talking.
I did.
You did, okay. So again, thank you for everyone's patience, unforeseen happenings, but we appreciate everyone's patience this evening. So this is our public hearing for the McDonald's at 15920 Harlem Avenue. We did have a workshop on this on our last meeting. Because it is in a PUD, the Park Center Plaza PUD, any change or substantial change to the site plan needs to be considered, needs a special use permit, as it is considered a substantial deviation. So this evening, the public hearing, or the nature of the public hearing is to review the special use permit and any exceptions that are listed. In addition, we're also looking at the site plan as a whole this evening, so the Plan Commission will be making a vote on the site plan, and then they'll also be making a vote on the substantial deviation. The plan that has been presented that provides for double lanes on the existing facility resulted in a couple deviations or exceptions from code, and that includes the total number of signs, wall signs on the property. They're requesting 2 additional wall signs beyond the 4 that are allowed. They're asking for an additional 6 inches on the height of those wall signs, and they're asking for an additional 8 inches on the height of the menu boards. They're also asking for a reduction in the required number of parking spaces down to, from 64 that's required down to 54. They currently have 59. So here's the site, as probably most of us are aware, at the in the Park Center Plaza PUD. The property was developed back in 1988 and has gone through maybe a couple renovations, but as part of the branding that McDonald's is undergoing with their double drive-throughs, the owner has also been looking at some architectural changes that we'll talk about later this evening. Adjacent uses in the B3 district here are similar restaurant uses and commercial uses that are all permitted and allowed in the B3 district. So at the last meeting, we had several open items that were discussed in the workshop setting. The first one being the fact that, as I mentioned, we have to modify the site plan to allow for the double drive-through, and that takes a substantial deviation. The Plan Commission discussed this, and there was no objection noted. The number of parking spaces reduced. There was discussion at the workshop, and the fact that this is in a PUD with a lot of shared parking opportunities, there was no significant objection mentioned during the workshop. There was a landscape area on the north end of the parking adjacent to 159th where staff recommended they expand that landscape area, and the petitioner agreed to do that. Also, just below that, near the second drive-through lane, there's a landscape bed there that the staff did not want to see the original proposal for mulch, and they have agreed to do a hardscape landscape treatment on that area because we would always love to see landscaping, but because it gets run over by trucks and is in the turn laning, that was recommended, and the applicant agreed to do so. There was originally just a request for one additional wall sign, but at the meeting, one of our commissioners recommended that they actually request, I never really have seen this before, where Plan Commission actually requests for additional signs, but it was recommended that the petitioner look at putting an additional play space sign on the south facade. The petitioner has agreed to do that, and that's in the proposal this evening. So there'll be 2 additional signs as part of the substantial deviation. The M McDonald's signs, as I mentioned, they're 6 inches above what's required, but there was no significant objection to that noted during our discussion at the workshop. And lastly, the menu signs, there was some discussion, if you recall, how that was actually measured. I think at the workshop we thought they were only 5 inches greater than the 7-foot allowed. They're actually 8 inches greater because of the concrete footing for the menu board. Regarding the architecture of the building, it's a modern look. This is one of the prototypes that McDonald's is instituting across the country. There was a sample board that I imagine the applicant will present to you. The only change from the workshop would be that addition of the play space sign on the south side, as you see in this picture. And with respect to signage, as I mentioned, even though they are asking for additional signage, they're still under what they are allowed in terms of area. They are asking for 2 additional wall signs. They had 175 square feet, and they're going down to 108 or 109 square feet in this new proposal. And regarding the number of wall signs, they have 11 now, and they're going down to 6. They're reducing the total sign face area by 81 square feet, and the height is also being reduced by 15 inches. There's the menu boards that we talked about before where we weren't quite sure what the difference is, and as I mentioned, it's actually about 8 inches. Still under the area that is allowed. That's all I have to present, and I'm sure the petitioner might want to add a few things.
Thank you. have a presentation from the petitioner.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman. My name is Jim Olguin. I'm the zoning attorney for McDonald's. Also here with me this evening are Matt Vogel and Andrew Utan from V3, the project engineers, and Darren Friege. He's the operator of this particular McDonald's. It's always nice to follow staff here because they do such a great job of kind of hitting everything that's important. Just to kind of summarize, what we're really happy to come before you is with a plan that really makes every aspect of this site better. The site plan itself, the addition of the dual drive-through makes the drive-through more efficient for our customers, allowing people to move through there faster. It provides better stacking. Also, by the reconfiguring the overall drive area, the counterclockwise circulation on the site becomes better. We've instituted angled parking, once again, to help reduce any traffic conflicts. So overall, from a site plan a change standpoint, we're making it a safer, better site. Similarly, for pedestrians, we're making access to the building better as well. Adding crosswalks, adding a sidewalk on the west side, all to make any pedestrians that are going to be going to the McDonald's have a better avenue of doing that. We're also, as indicated, making the architecture updated and better. They're clean lines. It looks good. It looks modern. We're hiding the mechanicals, on the building. So all that, from an aesthetic standpoint, works better. As Paula mentioned, even though there are some deviations from the village's code in terms of the number and the size of the signage on the building, there's still an overall reduction in the total square footage of signs and the number of signs from what is currently there. And also importantly, I think that even though the number of signs is 2 more than is typically permitted, the overall square footage is less than what the village permits. One of the things that McDonald's does is they're trying to have very succinct signage to provide folks the ability to know that a McDonald's is there, because the McDonald's is such a it's for, typically we're drawing people who are already on the roadway, so that recognition, that visual recognition with sufficient enough time for somebody to make the necessary traffic movements to get into the site is very important. And one of the other deviations that we're requesting is the number of parking spaces. It's only going down from 59 to 54, and so it's a minor change, and part of that is to, once again, to all the benefits that we're making on the site in terms of the dual drive-through, the reconfiguration of the circulation, and the angled parking spaces. It's also important to note that the current existing site also does not currently meet the village's code, so a deviation from that requirement would be needed even if the site would remain as is. So based on that, we believe that everything that's being proposed is really benefiting the site. It's going to be something that's going to be beneficial for all the customers, something that's going to be look better even for those that are just driving by. So the rest of the team is here to answer any questions, as will I, should there be any regarding the project. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And again, thank you for hanging around as we got a little bit of a late start.
Yeah, no, we thank you for all hanging around.
Okay, so the next item is for any questions for the petitioner from the commissioners?
Good.
None? Okay. Yeah, this, again, we had the previous workshop, rather thorough, and had a lot of discussions, and I was happy to see that we have a resolution on all those open items there. So, again, this opportunity for any objectors that might be present. Seeing none, we can move on here. Again, a lot of these things are not necessary. Closing remarks, if you have additional remarks before we look to close the public hearing. It doesn't sound like we have anything to go through during the public hearing.
We can do the standards after the public hearing, closing of the public hearing. if you like.
Yes. While we are in public hearing, I'm sorry, gave opportunity for the public to speak, so we're good there. So do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So
So
moved. Oh, second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of closing public hearing, say aye.
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 Okay, we're closed on the public hearing. So we can take a look at the standards for approving a deviation, and as well,
You can start with the site plan if you wish.
so we're going to have two separate, is this in one?
No, we'll have two different motions, so
Yes.
I can briefly cover the standards for the site plan if you wish.
Yeah, I think that would be good, we should probably consider the deviation prior to the site plan approval, right?
What was that, would you say?
Um,
We'll do site plan first and then substantial deviation second.
Is that the order that we should go in?
It's your pleasure.
Yeah. Okay, it doesn't really matter, but go ahead and.
What would you prefer?
Well, the standards for site plan approval?
Okay. So the site plan, because it's an existing site, it really meets a lot of the standards fairly easily. They would have had to go through these standards when they approved it as part of the original PUD. So really, when you're thinking about these site plan standards, you're thinking about the additional changes, and that would be the double drive-through. It's obviously a permitted use in the B3, but we've had engineering look at this regarding any, and police and fire, to make sure that it meets any of the public safety concerns that might result from this. Landscaping was also reviewed, and there were some modifications through the process that the applicant has agreed to that's met any of the staff concerns. So, and the last standard that we always talk about is the outdoor trash area, and they've agreed to paint that or side that so it matches the new architecture on the building. And that's for those. And if you'd like, I can do this substantial deviation.
Yeah,
Special use?
I think we'll go through the standards for that as well,
Okay.
and then we could just handle both motions at once.
Yeah, okay. So as I mentioned, because it's a substantial deviation, it's in essence a special use. So we do have special use standards in our code. Again, the fact that it's an existing use makes it a little easier to address some of those concerns. Some of the standards are usually the basic health, safety, and welfare, but it's an existing use and it's consistent with the surrounding uses and permitted uses in the area, restaurants, retail. The area is also fully developed, so some of the concerns about impacting undeveloped property is not a concern because the area is already fully developed. It has been reviewed by engineering, fire, and police to make sure that there's adequate turning radii. So any of the life safety concerns are addressed, as well as the engineering concerns for access and utilities. In actuality, some of the revisions, as a consequence of the double lane, have improved the access, especially the pedestrian access on site with the addition of the sidewalk, and the angled parking also eases the flow of traffic through the site. So we are actually seeing an improvement with this substantial deviation. The exceptions we've noted earlier in our report regarding signage and parking is the shared parking opportunities because it's a PUD, so the parking doesn't really present an issue. The last issue was whether it was directly or indirectly contributing to the economic development as a community. So we're hoping that we see more burgers sold and will contribute to the overall economic health of the community with the additional turn lane. At least that's what I think the owner is hoping for. And that's all. The motions I put on the board, and I think they're in your staff reports as well.
Yes, and the way you have the motion drafted, we're doing it as a single motion, while it's really a single vote. they're not structured as two separate motions.
Not as a separate motion, but separate, I guess I could have put 3 dots, but it's make a motion, the first one is site plan, and then the plan commission also moves to
Okay.
recommend, so.
So the way it's set up, it looks like a single motion, but really we should handle this as two motions. And the reason I was asking about the order is approving or considering the deviation before approving site plan approval, and then they kind of go hand in hand to a degree. I just was seeing if there was any procedural reason to do one versus the other.
I have to think about what you're saying, but either way, whatever you prefer.
Well, to approve the site plan, I think the deviation kind of goes hand in hand with that, so.
Yeah, the site plan is just the site plan. Substantial deviation deals with parking and the signs and all that the site plan doesn't address.
Okay.
So, and the site plan doesn't go on to the village board, but the substantial deviation does.
Yep. Okay. So with that, I'd like to entertain a motion on the site plan approval, which is just the first paragraph there. Do we have anyone who'd like to make a motion?
Make a motion to grant the petitioner James E. Olguin of Goldstein, Skaradzi, Russian, Nemec, and Hoff Ltd. on behalf of McDonald's USA LLC site plan approval in accordance with plans as noted in the list of submitted plans within the staff report and attached to the Plan Commission meeting packet for drive-through and parking lot modifications and related site improvements for the McDonald's at 15920 Harlem Avenue.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Could we get a roll call, please?
Stanton?
Yay.
Engel?
Yes.
Gray?
Abstain.
Augustinier?
Aye.
Shaw?
Yes. Okay, motion carries. I would like to now entertain a motion for the substantial deviation.
Commissioner Stanton would like to make a motion to grant the petitioner James E. Elquin of Goldstein, Skratsky, Russian, Nemec, and Hoff Ltd. on behalf of McDonald's USA LLC site plan approval in accordance with plans as noted in the list of submitted plans within the staff report and attached.
Sorry, Commissioner Stanton.
Paragraph
I
2.
think you're reading the first
Sorry.
motion. So we want to read the second.
Oops. Strike that. The Plan Commission also moves to recommend that the village board grant petitioner James E. Elquin and Goldstein, Skratsky, Russian, and Nemec, and Hoff Ltd. on behalf of McDonald's USA LLC a special use permit for a substantial deviation from the Park Center Plaza planned unit development to allow for modifications to this approved site plan and an increase in the size and number of signs allowed for McDonald's at 15920 Harlem Avenue within the B3 PD General Business and Commercial Park Center Plaza planned unit development zoning district. The proposed substantial deviation would allow a total of 6 wall signs. 3 of the 6 wall signs would be 36 inches tall, which exceeds the maximum allowed sign height by 6 inches. The menu boards are 8 inches taller than the allowable height of 7 feet. The petitioner also requests an exception for the required number of parking spaces at the site. The project includes the following exceptions. 1, an exception to the village parking requirement of 64 spaces to allow 54 parking spaces. 2, an exception to allow 2 additional wall signs. 3, an exception to the height of the wall sign that is limited to 30 inches to allow 3 signs of 36 inches high in height. And number 4, an exception to the maximum height for a freestanding sign, which is limited to 7 feet to allow 4 menu signs at 7 feet 8 inches in height.
Second.
Moved and
Seconded.
seconded by Commissioner Augustiniak. Could we get a roll call vote, please?
Augustinier?
Aye.
Gray,
Abstain?
Engel,
Yes.
Stanton,
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. Appreciate your patience.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you for sticking it out with us, and I appreciate you, coming after work. So we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys. This will move on to the village board for approval of the deviations. On, do you know the date yet?
Oh, yes. Village Board on February 6th for first reading, Jim, and adoption would be February 20th. Okay?
Okay.
Barb will probably send you some reminders on that.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate
Thanks.
it. Paul.
Nice seeing you again, Darren.
Thanks again. Have a great night.
Nice meeting you. So-
Night.
Thank you.
Do you want to leave your material board here? Was there anything you wanted to show?
The only difference we had is we updated the pictures to show the
The signage?
screening on the top and the additional sign, so, other than that, that's what you saw last week. or 2
Thank you.
weeks ago.
And I believe it was updated in the staff report.
Yes,
as well.
that's-
But we have to keep it for when you go into building permit as a comparison, so you might as well just leave it now unless you want to
Sure.
bring it back again.
What
So
would
Barb
like
can take it.
Here's the fine, or?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you so much.
Robert, would you mind?
Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'm going to build a house someday with all the building material boards I have. Should see our closet, right?
Okay, so moving on and considering the hour here, do you think, how long do you think our zoning map workshop would take, considering we have a...
10 minutes.
Okay, because we have in the interest of continuing to hit the schedule with the public hearing for this one, because we have a public hearing on this.
This
Not-
is a workshop tonight.
I know, but we're going to do the workshop tonight,
Right.
so that we can hit the public hearing as scheduled.
Right. But I'm just not following.
That's all right,
this
we'll
side.
move on to the public, or to the
Workshop.
workshop, thank you.
Okay. Was there a certain schedule tonight? You need to be out here at a certain
No,
time?
no.
Okay.
I was suggesting at the late hour, or if we didn't have a public hearing scheduled, that perhaps we would pick this up at another meeting.
Oh,
But,
it's only 9 o'clock.
okay, let's keep moving along. Thank you.
You young people. Okay, so we have to do this every year. We have a zoning map, and basically, just so people don't understand, we're adopting a new zoning map, and it's not changing any zoning. But throughout the year, you all are handling text amendments, map amendments that have changes that need to be reflected on the zoning map. In addition to that, as with everything, we come across maybe some errors in the map that need to be corrected. So that is what happens statutorily by March 31st of every year. We have to adopt the map. So we're actually at the last date we could do this, so we really need to have the workshop and have to have the public hearing on the next meeting. So the map, we have a large one over there if you are curious about any one piece of parcel. Our GIS, we have a great GIS department that handles this for us, and really throughout the year, the map gets updated. But what's always important is we have to document it as an official zoning map once a year. Throughout the year, it's a map that's fluid. This year, the only real map changes we saw, and I'm not sure if this commission was always, I guess you guys have all been here a year, so Tuleha rezoning, if you remember, and the Baptist Church rezoning with the annexation. So those were the two that actually went through with approvals of Plan Commission. Probably the largest one that I think might be considered confusing. If you recall the project at 183rd and Harlem Avenue, the Reserve Project, there in 2016 that there was a recension of the original amendment that changed some land use portions of that code. The very controversial portion was first floor commercial. But within that ordinance, there were many Scrivener errors, we call them, that were also being corrected, where a legal description was off or the map had not been rightly corrected. So when that ordinance got rescinded, it rescinded everything. So we had to go back and revert to the errors on the map that had been noted with that original ordinance. So what we have to do with this ordinance is we're not touching any aspect of the legacy code with respect to land use or text amendments. We're only looking at those map amendments, and there were 14 of them that were found to be errors in the original adoption of the ordinance. I have numbers if you need to, in your ordinance. The original 2015 ordinance, which is 2015-045. Then in 2016, it was rescinded with 2016-025. And then again, in 2017, we adopted ordinance 217-020, which just addressed these Scribner errors. That kind of shows you where the map is. A lot of them are fairly insignificant, but now it brings everything up to correctness with the code and that it's mapped appropriately. Then the last issue was something that we came across, another fun project, the Residences Project. And there was a lot of controversy and confusion regarding what the property was appropriately zoned. And I'm sure you remember the long investigation, the lack of documentation staff could find, and final determinations by our village attorney that according to the original annexation agreement, I had that number here, 90-009, that was the annexation agreement, in conjunction with the resolution for rezoning, which was 90-R002, identified these areas that you're seeing here, A through E, as R6. The map was incorrect and has been incorrect for many years because it reflected it as R5. But after thorough review and having a legal interpretation, they appropriately needed to be reflected as R6. We're not rezoning it. It was always R6. It was just incorrectly noted on the map. So those were the changes. A public hearing is scheduled for February 1st. I just want to make sure that it's very clear that we're not changing anything that has not already been gone through the process of Plan Commission workshop and public hearing, and then gone up to the village board for first and second
So
reading.
this is just to codify. what's
That's a
already
great
been
way
done.
to say it. The codification of, that's a great way to say it. Codification of the things that have happened, or any corrections that we discovered to make sure that they are made right. Okay, makes sense?
Any further questions among the
No.
commissioners? This is all fairly straightforward. And again, it's worth noting that this is not making any changes.
That's the big thing, is we just have to make sure that gets clear.
This is simply
To the
an
public.
exercise in annual codification, so to speak, of all the ordinance changes to be reflected in the official.
Absolutely.
So I feel like we just did this, actually.
Yeah, doesn't seem that long ago, huh? It's a year.
Okay, so we will have thank you for that, Paula. We'll have a public hearing on that on February 1st. So with that, we covered a lot of the good of the order informally, but now that we're in a meeting and we're recording, so I want to hit any of the highlights here just for the viewing public.
I'll just mention that we're moving forward with some hires, critical hires in the Community Development Department. We have offers out, and the board's contemplating a building official position. We will be advertising for a senior planner. That should be going out tomorrow. And then there's some consideration for a community development director or a planning manager. The decision lies with the village, with the mayor actually, in his appointment. Bremen Cash Store and Woodman's projects, both are being discussed at the staff level. Neither one are formal applications yet, so we're working through some of the engineering issues at the staff level right now. Next meeting, we're going to have the Southwest Christian School bus barn and bus parking site plan review, and then we also will have a discussion with the EEC committee who would like to work more closely with the Plan Commission. And so we'll have the chairman, I believe he is, Jeff Meck, come to our Plan Commission at the next meeting. There'll be a new launch of the website, so we're excited about that. That reflects our new branding. And I should know the date, but I know it's coming up very closely because we all have to put our final comments in. So I would say within the next couple weeks that's coming. And that's pretty much software was my other item, in that we're just getting closer and closer to making a decision on software. We had a meeting today. We've narrowed it down to 4 companies. And so we'll be doing site visits and interviews on those within the next couple weeks. But I kind of want to wait till my building official gets on board before we make a final decision.
That's great.
Okay?
Okay, any final comments or questions from commissioners?
On here.
None. Comments from the public? Hearing none. I will entertain a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting.
So moved.
Moved Commissioner Augustiniak, second.
Second.
Commissioner Engel, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.
Did I start talking at 5, or did